Welcome off the post, brought to you by Lights On Electric and Coverall Exteriors. I'm Russ Cohen. We have Anthony Mingione, and how are you?
Okay, Russell, how are you on this fine day? You getting ready to batten down the hatches with the nor'easter coming through?
I don't think it's going to be that bad near me, but
Not here, not I think on our neck of the woods. But if you're down the Jersey Shore today, it's going
I
to
lived
be
in Avalon
a
for 3-4 years and got
Mhm.
flooded out once. It's no fun, so I hope people stay safe. And we
Mhm.
have Michael Jello. Mike, how are you?
Oh, I'm okay, I guess. But I'm doing better than the Buffalo Sabres are doing.
All right, and we're going to start with them because I want to get them out of the way. I mean, it's just like a rain cloud.
I got to ask a question about the Sabres, Mike. Are you guys going to be able to get that beer saber?
Well, the question is whether Alan Walsh will impale somebody with that beer saber.
Okay, well, getting jokes aside, right now the Sabres have 1 goal in 2 games. They've lost Josh Norris, which we all knew could happen. That was not a shocker. Sucks for him.
Yeah, but after 2 periods.
Yeah, after 2 periods is kind of rough.
But that is truly Sabres luck.
It is. I mean, at this point, Mike, I mean, you look at the division, I know they're going to have this bravado, we could do this, but they really can't.
No, I mean, okay. I went into the season thinking this team and most experts, most prognosticators, Money Puck, betting lines like BetMGM, they had them at about a 38% chance of making the playoffs. They had them with about between 88 to 90 points and finishing 11th, 10th, which is nothing in the playoffs. I mean, it's competitive, but I looked at it and I talked to somebody in the press box on opening night, and I said, realistically, this is not a playoff team, but this is what has to happen. Luukkonen's got to come back. Their defense with Power, Dahlin, and Byram have to play much better than they did last year. They have to hope that Zach Benson and Jack Quinn step up offensively to make up for the departure of J.J. Peterka. But one of the top things on their list that they didn't have last year was a number 1 center. And originally they had Tage Thompson as the number 1 center. They figured he's better playing on the wing. And, they traded Dylan Cousins for Josh Norris, and Josh Norris would be the number 1 center. And he had a healthy summer and he looked really good. Him and Thompson led the team in scoring in the preseason, but it was imperative that he be healthy. And he takes a face-off with 5 minutes left to go in the 3rd period in the opener and does something. There's speculation it's a torn oblique. It could be a shoulder. Lindy Ruff said it's not the same injury that he's had in the past, but we don't know. All they know is, and they're not saying how long. They said a significant period of time. It's okay, that could be weeks. That could be months. Nobody knows.
It sounds more than weeks. When you say significant, it sounds more than weeks.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like months, but we don't know. And that's the thing. I'm not going to speculate on it, but the thing is, I mean, the domino effect of this. Okay, so now Norris is not your number 1 center, and they don't want to move Tage Thompson up the middle because he's better scoring on the wing. Okay, fine. So now Yuri Kulich, 20-year-old Yuri Kulich, is your number 1 center.
Well, let me just ask this question.
Yeah.
Last year they were 11th in scoring. They had 1 goal in 2 games. Why can't they score?
Well, one was Igor Shesterkin, played fantastic against them in the opener. I mean, he made I think it was 37 saves.
Okay.
But they started out that game with 5 shots on goal. The Rangers came out with their hair on fire. But yeah, I mean, their power play wasn't exactly awe-inspiring. They really weren't winning battles 5-on-5. They had a good second period. As soon as they got down 2-0, it was over with. And in this game last night against the Bruins, they were outshot 16-1 in the first period. You think depression has set in with the fact that Josh Norris is not there, not going to be there for weeks or months? I mean, right now, like I said, a 20-year-old is your number 1 center. Now, Ryan McLeod, who's a good fit as a 3, is now your 2, and it's a domino effect. Zach Benson's out with an infection in his cheek. I mean, all these things. Even when they get everybody back minus Norris, I don't know whether they can score enough, and I didn't know whether they could score enough with Norris. So they're really in a deep hole.
I mean, it's going to be it's definitely a difficult spot when, like you said, when you have and I like Yuri Kulich. I do.
We all do.
It's just, this is very much getting thrown in the deep end of the pool with the Sharks, and he's going to have to learn to swim very quickly here. If the Sabres are going to have any chance here of making things competitive for themselves. And I know there's been enough conversations, Mike, about, potential trades, but now it's like, it's not the wing situation that's the concern. It's the center. And that costs a pretty penny if you're trying to figure that out.
And that's, it's one thing, and we've talked about this on the show before. Montreal's looking for a number 2 center because Kirby Dach is injury prone and not really a good fit as a number 2 center. Calgary's looking for a number 2 center. Vancouver's looking for a number 2 center. Okay, fine. Maybe those can be found before the trade deadline on March the 6th. Now Buffalo's looking for a number 1 center.
Yeah,
Good
that's
luck.
not going to happen.
It's not happening.
I mean, you're just looking, honestly, it's not even a case of a number 1 center, Mike.
You
It's
just
a
want
case of,
to choose.
it's somebody who can be at least a decent, what we would call a top 6 center, to be serviceable, to at least be able to dish the puck to the wings,
Right.
to be able to score. Getting a number 1 center, as we define it, is very difficult, but getting someone who's top 6 level is what everybody's trying to get right now, and that's that's the problem that they're in right now.
The thing is, and even though he doesn't play, that the determination from Lindy Ruff is that Tage Thompson doesn't play as well up the middle as he does at center. But you know what? At a certain point, you're going to have to say, well, we need him up the middle. So you may have to move him back to center.
Yeah.
And I said this to Russ yesterday. And I am not advocating calling up Konsta Helenius as a 19-year-old. He's clearly, he had a good.
You want to at least get him another. I mean, if things are without hope by mid-season,
get him another 20.
Well, and he's doing well with Roch, then you just put him in and you let him learn. But at least at that point, if things are bad, the expectations are okay. Konsta, just there's no playoff pressure here. It's a matter of just proving you can be, what we need you to be in the future.
Maybe after the World Junior, but my point was he had a good rookie year, but he's 19 years old. So, we think he's going to be a good pro, but we don't want to force the issue. But Noah Ostlund's a year older, and Noah Ostlund had a good year, a good second half of the year with Rochester after the injuries. And they called him up at the end of the year, and they put him on the 4th line. It's like, okay, at a certain point, Sabres management, how about finding that these guys can swim in the deep water?
Do you think
Isaac Rozan has been called up 5 billion times, and they've never given him more than a chance on the 3rd line? Find out whether these guys are good or not.
You picked them 13 overall in the draft. It wouldn't be a bad idea to find out. Question:
if your determination is that they're not good, then your scouting has failed.
Mike, last question in terms of Sabres related. So I know, Anthony DeMarco from the 4th period had floated out the idea of, now if you were to move Tage Thompson back to center,
right,
he had floated, I guess it was the idea of, the Flyers have been hunting for Bowen Byram for God knows how long now.
Right.
If it would help in terms of the scoring, if you're moving Thompson back to center, would they consider a possible Owen Tippett, Emil Andre trade in exchange for Byram?
I'd be surprised. I think.
I am too. I'm just floating it out there. To get to the point of saying, hey, we've got our center situation's dire. We need to move Tage back to the middle, so we can acquire a potential 20-goal winger. In this circumstance, would be something they would consider?
I'll say this: if Bowen Byram is traded, and it's this year, Kevin Adams will not be the one to trade him.
Gotcha. Buffalo basically need to be crashing out here at this point now before that trade happens.
It would be at the deadline, and it would be Jarmo Kekalainen as the new general manager doing it. I think what's going to happen is they're going to eventually move. Once they get everybody back, they're gonna move Thompson to the middle if Kulich can't handle the load.
Right.
But the scoring is going to be an issue. They played better defensively in the first 2 games, sure, but you got to score in this league, and if you don't score, you're in deep trouble.
All right, so we switch over to the Leafs Detroit game where one team scored a lot, Detroit. I watched a little, watched some post game. Was happy to hear Anthony Stolarz is a Met fan. Good for you. I like you a little more now.
I knew there was something I didn't like about him.
But Mike, the Leafs didn't show up for that game. Like, what the hell happened?
Well, they showed up in the first period. You probably missed the first period.
No. I saw the goals.
They played a really good first period. And this is the thing: they played 2 games and they played 2 spotty games. They played a good first period against Montreal. They gave up a shorthanded goal in that first period, but they played a pretty decent first period. And then second period, and they think they played very well at all. And then played well going down the stretch in that 5-2 victory over Montreal. Here, played really well in the first period, but like Berube said after the game, they essentially allowed Detroit to take over and dominate the puck in the offensive zone for almost the entire second period. You know, Brandon Carlo was stuck out there for 3 minutes on a shift. Long changes are always a problem for some teams. And when you trap them in their zone, then you can't flush out the defense and get somebody who's fresh out there. And Detroit, don't sugarcoat it. Detroit was in a desperate situation after laying a complete egg against Montreal.
Sure.
And they've always played well against Toronto. So it's like, it's not surprising that they would step up. But yeah, the thing I'm concerned about is, and if you noticed, Stolarz was extremely busy, and he's been extremely busy in these first 2 games. And as we know, the issue with him is not ability, it's durability. And if it's low event games, then, you can get through this first month while Joseph Woll is taking care of whatever he's taking care of. Yeah. But now they've got 3 games in 4 nights, Detroit on Saturday, Detroit again on Monday afternoon, a game that was moved up because of the Blue Jays playoff game, and then Tuesday against Nashville, home back-to-back. Obviously, he's going to play one of those 2 games, but you're going to play him a Monday afternoon after a busy Saturday night. You're starting to risk, if he has to carry that kind of a workload, that's what gets him hurt.
They could call up Optimus Rhyme for a game.
No, right? He didn't sign him. So
they didn't sign him.
No, he was never signed. They actually let him go, right, Mike?
Yeah, they released him from
once they made who's the goalie they acquired again?
Caden Primo.
That's right. Once they got Primo, once they got
Primo, that was it. So so sorry, Russ, you don't have that bit to play with now.
Yeah. Sorry.
He's like it's stuff like this is like he's like a cat with a ball of yarn.
Yeah, it's fun. I forgot about that, but yeah, that is a spot though. I'm not worried about the Leafs or anything, but Detroit looked too good in that game.
Yeah, I think Detroit played desperate hockey. I didn't think Talbot played very well. Let's just say this. It was about time that Detroit decided to take the chance and play their kids. I think they had to. And Sammy Palka looked good. We know that Sider is a beast. We know Edvinson's a pretty good defenseman. It's a question of whether they're going to get consistent offense.
And McClellan also lit into him pretty good after they lost first game, right?
Oh no!
So I think at that point, it's a little bit of a, it's already game 1, so there's again, Detroit's in a bit of urgency here to get to make things happen.
They're like Buffalo in a sense, Anthony, because it's like they need to at least. Well, I don't think getting close. I think they need to make the playoffs.
No, they're in the spot like Columbia. They're in a spot like
they have to make it.
They got to at least get into the wild. They got to at the minimum make the postseason. There's too much there in Detroit for me to think that they're not good enough.
Yeah, especially now that they have a goalie like.
And it sounds like they're gonna rotate Talbot and Gibson.
Yeah, that's good because you don't want to overwork Gibson in the early part of the season.
You always know that with Gibson, it's just like you're gonna need this. So Talbot will get his start just to make sure. But if Gibson starts getting really built up by the time we get to midseason,
then you got a problem.
And one last note about the Leafs, and I'm already it's 2 games into the regular season, and already I'm getting tired of the yo-yoing. If you're not going to play Easton Cowan, send him down to the American Hockey League. It's like, oh, well, he had a really good camp and he's really working hard in practice. It's like, okay, fine, then play him. And if you're not going to play him, send him to the Marlies. Stop with this bullshit. Now, Steven Lorenz got hurt on Saturday night. This is an opportunity. If all of a sudden they decide, oh, we're going to play Sammy Blais against the Red Wings in the second game. Send Cowan down to the minors.
I concur.
So, and we'll talk about the Flyers game, which was weird, but I will tell you this. Like, I never know what's goaltending interference anymore, but I will tell you that the way Freddie Anderson acted, he's not – look, there's plenty of things I could say about Anderson, but he never acts like that. So I had a feeling it was called back.
To me, it was this where his stick hit Stanheim. I think that's what the Situation Room in Toronto looked at. And when I looked at that, it was kind of like initially everybody's yelling incidental contact. You know, Freddie initiated the contact. He's allowed to track the play as much as anybody is, but the fact, I think that's what really got Sanheim in that circumstance, which again, it marred it was unquestionably Bobby Brink's best game as a professional.
Oh, no question. That was his best game as a pro.
Again, you're up against the Carolina team if you look at the numbers, the Flyers were getting caved in puck possession wise, transition, they were struggling. The defense is struggling as much as we expected them to, especially when you're playing Igor Zamula on the second pair, which was always him and Drysdale. But that being said, Drysdale, I thought actually played.
He had a better game.
He had a better game than the first one. So, but they were competitive. Again, they kept it close. And again, the goaltending. I know you're saying
it was fine that game.
It could have easily been. They could have been lit up for 7. Last year, that game they would have been lost 7-1.
I had no problem with him in that.
So Ersson, I thought this was a really good start, and I think there's an urgency for him right now because now he knows with Dan Vladar. You know, Vladar had a great start against Florida.
Yeah.
Those are games. Again, we see what the Flyers can do when they get competent goaltending.
Yeah.
You know, that they can be in the fight in most games, even against two, a Stanley Cup final, a Stanley Cup champion and a conference finalist. So, but again, the defense is, they're Sanheim nearly 30 minutes last night. That's putting him under a lot. Although I will say it does help him with regards to his Team Canada.
Oh, sure.
When you're getting that kind of ice time, but they're probably crossing their fingers to get Cam York back, just so they can kind of move certain players back in terms of the other pairs. Obviously, I think it'll be York and Sanheim. I think will be paired together if York is activated. But I wouldn't be too surprised if Tocchet, he talked about this during preseason about possibly having the two of them on separate pairs just to kind of spread things out. And I thought Sealer was solid with Sanheim.
Yeah, he's okay with them. Yeah.
So if you needed to kind of move York, but I don't like the idea of necessarily a York and Drysdale pairing.
That's not good. I think
it'll be an issue. So, but yeah,
physicality won't be there.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Carolina did what Carolina does. Carolina just couldn't cash in the power play last night. They were, I believe, 0 for 5.
Yeah.
And you're talking about that team that had the number 1 overall power play in the NHL last year. So it does, I think, speak well to the Flyers' PK because Carolina was moving the puck around.
Dvorak got added to the PK, and he's
that's huge. I think Dvorak was, Dvorak took penalties in the first game, but I think that was good to see. The power play goal again was a kind of a happenstance play, but again. If the idea is behind Tocchet's power play is to create chaos, I mean, shooting away and having obviously Trevor Zegras there, I think is just massive for the power play units now because you have that guy who can really get the puck.
Yeah, they still need work on that power play.
No, they do absolutely. And then the other question I have out of that game is where Matt, things with Matt.
Well, that's the big story here.
I think I didn't quite get into it in my piece at all because I filed it a little late. I filed it last night. But Tocchet's comment on Michkov, he's taken some penalties early on in the season, and this is where it may not be a case where he's going to be necessarily as public with his critiques, Tocchet, but using a statement like "I needed the guys who were skating" is a very blunt, force thing to say. I wasn't seeing enough out of you to put you out there in overtime.
Right,
your best weapon.
His shifts were down. He's only averaging about 13 and a half minutes a game. And he only has 2 shots on goal for the whole season.
Exactly. So
for him is not a lot.
It's not a lot. He's had a few good plays. He's had some good feeds, some good corner feeds. But last night, the turnover that he gave, that cross ice blind turnover that that Sanheim had, that Ersson had to get across the stop. That was as soon as I saw that, I'm like, you keep doing that, your ice time's just going to continue to drop. So
Yeah.
it's just, this is going to be a learning curve, I think. But the whole thing that I look at with here is, as long as, Tocchet's credential is in teaching, right? He likes to really focus in on teaching. So I have no doubt that he has to, in this case, because this is a star player, that he and Michkov are going to continue to have to sort of come to an understanding of what is expected of him.
Well, you're
and
a
how
teacher,
he has to be not quite as risky, but know when to take the risks.
Okay. Now you're a teacher, so I throw this at you. NHL teaching is different. You could call a guy a teacher because he's working with players on the ice, but he's still taking out ice time because of mistakes. At times, you do have to let a guy make mistakes.
You do, but you also cannot be making. And again, remember, he's still in the game. He started the game. He still had his opportunities. He's on a line with Couturier and Konechny.
Mm-hmm.
So the signal, it's not as if he's being dropped on lines.
Well, no, but his shifts were down. I mean,
his shifts went down because, again, if you're not skating, again, what it appears that Tocchet wants to see out of Michkov is that he needs to be skating with purpose. And the one thing my one critique about Michkov is he has got classic cherry picking syndrome in the neutral zone. He's always waiting out there. And that unfortunately leaves things kind of open where, he's wanting the stretch pass, and it's like he has to provide better support. He cannot be that far up the ice. And that is a thing that you want, the offensive opportunities, but I think there's going to be some things that he's going to have to adjust in year 2, where the hard lessons are going to be coming a little bit more, and maybe even harder than it was under Torts, because Torts probably looked at it and said, this is my one offensive weapon in this case. Right. Whereas Tocchet's looking at it right now and saying, 2 games in, really my top line is Noah Cates, and Tyson Foerster, and Bobby Brink, and they have played like a top line. I mean, it does appear to me that Noah Cates, again, it's 2 games in, so I take it for what it is, but he seems to be on the process of leveling up here. I'm not ready to call him like a top 6 center yet.
No, not yet.
But 10, 15 games in, if I'm seeing this kind of performance out of Cates on a consistent basis with good faceoffs, it's going to be tough for me to say no in this circumstance, that they might by default be the Flyers' top line.
Mike, your thoughts?
I mean, I just look at the Flyers right now from sort of like the 30,000 foot perspective. And okay, right now they're 0-1-1. I think obviously there's some optimism that, with Tocchet coming in and that they'll be in the right direction, because I think going with Tortorella again would have been just, more of the same. I just don't know how much talent, and if there's enough talent there for this team to really compete for a playoff spot. Now, not to say that there are things that cannot be accomplished this year. You need to get Michkov on the straight and narrow. Mm-hmm. You need to find out what, some of the young players, whether they can step up into bigger roles. But in the end, it's like, and I'm not saying be in the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes, but in the end, I just don't know if, like, being in the middle of the league, or being like, say, 11th or 12th place in the Eastern Conference really accomplishes it a lot. I think this is a team, and maybe they can do it through free agency. They have a lot of cap space that they can go out and get a player or two that will help them get to the next level. But the problem is, as we've seen over the last week, Anthony, all those guys are gone.
Like, it's not, if you're counting on free agency, that's not going to be the pathway. Philly's going to have to kind of suss out a trade of some kind, or a player that's about to come up under contract here that they think can be an upgrade at the positions that they have at the moment. And again, defensively, and I think the area that really we're focused on, everybody's focused on forward so much, it's defense. I mean, this is why you are going to continue to hear, the Flyers trying to sniff around a Bowen Byram potentially, reportedly. Because I think they realize in that case that a Byram stretches out that blue line and at least gives you three defensemen in Sanheim, York, and if you acquired Byram, you've got at least 3, reliable players in that circumstance.
But there's an issue there, and as we very well know, Byram's agent is Darren Ferris. and Darren Ferris takes his players to market. You are not going to trade the assets that you are going to need to trade to get Bowen Byram from Buffalo and then see him walk away in a year and a half.
If you got a team, but here's the thing. If you have a team that's got a pretty decent amount of cap space coming up, but at the end of the day, you may say Ferris likes to take his guys to market. It's also going to be up to the defenseman as well to say, hey, the Flyers come to me with a pretty decent sized contract, one that's befitting of, let's say, a top four, almost close to a top pairing defenseman in the NHL. That's something that would be difficult for them to potentially say no to.
Well, I'll just say this. I mean, and we don't know if this is going to happen or whatever, but if I'm Danny Briere, before I even start talking to Buffalo about a potential Bowen Byram trade, I would approach Darren Ferris and say,
I'm sure that'll happen.
Oh, that would happen.
Because I don't think they make that move without that.
If I were if I were Danny Briere, I would call up Lindy and say, hey, Lindy, would you like Risto back if he's healthy? Jesus. And work him in that trade.
The answer to that question.
Yeah,
I don't know. No, I don't know the answer to that question, actually.
Okay.
But
that question is probably not going to be able to be floated anyway. So,
sure. All right. I wanted to mention that for all the Adam Fox talk, he had 3 points yesterday, 2 goals. He's more than a point a game. And Mike and I look pretty good here by not listening to all the chatter that he's not what he used to be. He's not good. He's not this. He's not
one season, like his career. That's like an out. To me, that was always an outlier.
Right. And he had 61 points in what
he did. He had 51 assists. He had 51 assists on.
What happens when you're a Norris Trophy? The standards are high in New York. You know that.
Yeah, Christ. Yeah. Well, no, I'll say another thing and okay, it's 3 games. It's not 82. So I'm not. But I said, I think the Boston Bruins could bounce back. I said it when we had Dangle on the show on Monday. I said, if Swayman plays better, if their defense is healthy, if they can score, they're gonna be trouble. And they scored 3 goals against Buffalo yesterday, but they're getting enough offense out of that, out of Pasternak and out of guys like Pavel Zacha. And if Swayman is playing at a 915 to 920 save percentage like he can instead of 896, and Lindholm and McAvoy are as good as they have been, then they're going to be in the playoff mix. And right now they're 3-0, and so is the let's just write off the Florida Panthers.
Well, let's talk about that, because I didn't write them off. I put them in the Stanley Cup because I knew they have depth and they have Bob, and that's enough. Like, they have enough guys. When you watch them, it's like their defense, except now with Kulikov because he got hurt in the Flyers game.
Right.
Their defense was untouched.
Injuries are the main thing. To me, with Florida, what's the old phrase? Depth is great until you have to actually have to use it. So that's my concern with Florida, is that they've had three deep playoff runs. They've been to the Stanley Cup final 3 times, won 2 of the 2 cups. They've got more wear and tear on that roster than I think a lot of teams do. So that's my only thing when I look at Florida, is that the thing that kind of causes finally the wheels to come off the wagon.
I think that,
otherwise, if they're healthy, they're right there.
I think that, plus the concern about Bobrovsky being 37 years old and him dropping off at a certain point, it's going to be a situation where he could get old all of a sudden.
I don't think so. Not this year.
When I look at him, he's not a massive. He's in good shape. He's not a massive frame. Never was. So he's got a very sort of a build to him that he's a guy I could see tending goal for at least 3 more.
But one of the things that they had the benefit of last year, they had Spencer Knight for most of the season, and Spencer Knight played a sizable chunk of games. The year before, they had Stolars, and he played, I think, 27 games.
Yeah.
This year, now it's Daniel Tarasov.
So yeah.
He's not terrible, but he just won't play as many games.
Not terrible. He's relatively, what is he, 27?
25,
He's young.
He's still in his 20s. And this is, again, going to be a case where, when the backup is in, this is where Florida's defense, has to tighten up in front in order to allow the backup in order for the backup in their starts to, flourish, as we saw Knight do and as we saw Stolarz do in that role. So they just look at it as probably, again, young enough goalie. Bob's our guy. Whoever's backing him up, tighten the back end.
Here's the other thing too, and this is something that I've always done. I have always interviewed the black aces that are really good, that didn't get a chance to play for teams that win cups, and especially teams that win multiple cups. And so, like, I interviewed Samoskevich hot on the ice, and I could tell this guy wanted to get in there and show, because he's a really good player. Well, he's a point a game.
Opener against
point a game.
He had multiple chances in that opener against Philly. I mean, he was, Villar had to come across a couple times where he had to flash the glove on a Samoskevich.
He's playing on the top power play right now. Like,
he's a good player, and this is where
that really helps.
They do have that, that organizational depth that they've tapped. I mean, obviously, eventually, when you're picking as low as Florida's had, or trading the picks as they've done, this is going to be the true test of their organizational ability to develop prospects. They got to do basically what Tampa did for quite a few years, right? When Tampa basically had no picks, but somehow they were still bringing guys up. So that'll be the true test of their organizational staying power, as they can try to continue this.
One more thing, and then one food take. The other thing is, so Vegas, that they're getting Carter Hart now, because they have 10 goals for and 11 goals against. And that is not a recipe.
Wonder if the pressure starting to get.
Yeah, that is not a recipe that is going.
But the thing is, expecting Hart again. You're gonna get.
They'll let him do what he needs to do.
Yeah, he'll be in the A.
They can't rely on what they have. Is what?
No, but they can't rely on what they have. But the problem here is the absence and the cavernous hole left by Alex Pietrangelo not being there.
That's true. That's where goaltending can make it up.
Well, Russ, that only goes so far. If most goaltenders are only as good as the defense that's.
And you're also, one other thing, you're assuming that Carter Hart basically kind of is the same Carter Hart that he was prior to, obviously him.
I'm just saying, like, it's reasonable to say he could be better than Adin Hill. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's reasonable, but again, Adin also has had, he's also had runs. He's had runs in him that Hart has not had in his career. So
I would say the magic's gone there. Same as like the DeLorean kind of ran out of gas there.
It's possible, but we're also you're jumping off the deep end when there's how many games into the season?
No, but I watched Adin Hill last year too. I felt like he wasn't good enough last year either. Like, he was okay.
Again, we'll see. But again, I do wonder, because you do wonder if it gets into the head of a goaltender of the team when you know that there's a guy out there that your team is very much. And again, this is where Vegas's mercenary attitudes here can, as good as they are, everybody talks about how great they are to their players and everything, but they will, they've shown that they'll shift you out at a moment's notice.
They will, and I could see them, Mike. I could see them going for Rasmus Anderson too if they want to get a defenseman.
Well, yes, and the thing is, I mean, the bit of news that came out this week was they decided Alex Pietrangelo season-ending LTIR. Yeah. They get the full 8.8 million of Pietrangelo's salary, as opposed to what Florida did, which is just put Barkov on LTIR. They didn't close the door, so that means they only get less than half of his cap space. So Kelly McCrimmon is going to be out there shopping for a defenseman. Rasmus Anderson makes a lot of sense, even though, Calgary has gotten off to a slow start. It's not going to be until probably the middle of the season before.
I don't know. They said there's rumors out there that they may just get rid of him because they know if there's an offer for him, they've got to get rid of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to, and Vegas is also, besides the goaltending situation, you're battling with the Oilers. You need as many.
Yeah, you got to fortify.
Especially defensively, you need everything you can get. You need everything you could possibly get, especially if the two of them meet in the postseason.
I will be very curious to find out what Vegas trades to Calgary for.
I'm curious too,
because they don't have any. They have like their 2027 and 2028 first round picks, but they really don't have any. They're not going to trade Vorobiev. I mean, so who are they trading to get Rasmus Anderson?
So, like, as an example, would they trade Dorofeyev? They might.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, they might. they're getting a lot more out of him than anybody probably
It's
thought
something
they
that
would.
again you got to at least entice Calgary
You do.
to make them move Anderson.
Yep.
Dorothea may be the kind of player that they're going to be
That
like,
might do it.
you want to make this move, and you want to. We got to do as much as we don't want to deal with Anderson being in. He's
Right.
going to be out west. You're going to have to deal with him
Right.
anyway. So at least make sure to get the best.
They have
possible.
enough scoring where I think if they did that and improved their defense, they could probably get by. And I think that's probably something. Last thing, so McDonald's has the pumpkin and cream pie, like shaped like their apple pie. Who knew? Like I saw a video. They had a pumpkin pie, which was probably real pumpkin back in the day in 1984. I never saw it. I don't know if you guys ever saw it at McDonald's. I never did.
No, it was
I
always
mean, maybe around Thanksgiving at the Broaden Snyder McDonald's, which is where we used, that was McDonald's to me growing up and stuff.
Right.
it was always apple
I
and
remember.
cherry.
I was
Right.
always about get me the chicken. I was always at my age. I was always about get me the McNuggets.
Yeah. You were
always-
definitely the McNuggets generation. We were
Oh,
like the Big Mac
absolutely.
It
generation.
was
Double
always
cheeseburger.
apple and cherry pie and a carrot.
That's what I thought. Yeah. But I'm sure they threw. I guarantee you, Mike, they threw out a pumpkin in there. Of course,
Well-
everybody remembers the the temperature of those pies.
Oh yeah.
You burn the roof off your mouth.
Well, because they used to fry them. Now they don't fry them anymore. So now they're not as hot.
Now they bake them, but
Right.
I know. But hey, do you remember the McDLT? Cold side cold, hot side hot.
No, I don't remember that.
Oh no, I remember. Well, come
Oh my
on.
God, bro!
You kidding me? We're talking about the Costanza commercial.
Yeah, I just don't remember that.
I'm sorry, Jason Alexander before he was there, and it was
Okay, I don't
him
remember.
popping up and down Broadway with doing
Yeah.
dance steps.
I don't
hot
remember
side
that. But I will say this: I've looked at some early.
I'll send you the
reviews.
video clip. You ever see that ad, Russ?
I may not have.
Oh no, I'm going to send it to you. Then I'll find it on
I've
YouTube
seen
for you.
the early reviews.
I'll send it to you later. It's fantastic.
The early
Jason
reviews. On,
Alexander's such a song and dance man.
yeah, the early reviews on this pie are not great.
Mhm.
Some people are saying that it's overpowering. So we'll see.
What is overpowering?
Pumpkin flavor is overpowering.
Of course. I mean, for everybody, is like everything is pumpkin spiced overpowered.
I
Of course, I
cannot.
just bought 5 bags of from Trader Joe's for coffee.
I have to say, I can't wait till November 1st.
Yeah, then we get into apple cider season. We're not there yet. All right, that's it. That's it for Off the Post. We'll catch everybody next time.
Take care, everybody.